Hey, Husker fans, welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me as always is Danny Gillette, and we're back here for another episode here on Wednesday, and we're going to look back at the first couple of days of fall camp. We're going to get into some recruiting for Nebraska and a big five-star projection for the Huskers, as well as some other top targets to know in the 2027 class. And before we get into that, please make sure that you guys hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, get into the comments section. And Danny, how are you on this Wednesday morning?
I'm ready for some football. Almost August, almost that time of year, and there's tons of nuggets to kind of go over here, and I am absolutely fired up for the fact that camp's begun, recruiting seems to be in full swing, and a lot to cover today.
Yeah, man, we are getting closer now, basically 30 days away from the season opener, which will be 4 weeks from Thursday. We've got
Nuts.
the Hall of Fame game tomorrow night between the Lions and the Chargers. So, got football is on the menu. We don't have basically, I mean, once we get into August, we won't have any months without football until March, because at least we'll have the Super Bowl in February. So at least for the next, about 6 months or so, we'll be set. So, I mean, I'm pretty excited about it. It was great to see the guys back on the field on Monday. We're, like you said, we've got some practice nuggets, some good news, maybe not some of the best news, but we'll cover all that here in a minute. But before we get to that, we wanted to talk about recruiting. We still want to do, a recruiting episode at least once a week, and there was some pretty big news on the recruiting front for Nebraska football on Tuesday, as Tory Pittman, the five-star defensive back athlete from Omaha, was projected to the Huskers by Greg Smith of Rivals, one of the national kind of recruiting experts for Rivals. And this is a really big one. I mean, Tory Pittman is ranked 17th overall in the 24/7 Sports composite rankings, 6'2", 180 pounds, out of Omaha. He's got suitors from all over the place. LSU's been mentioned in the mix, but Greg Smith, who used to work for used to cover Nebraska, has a very good, I would say, read on the Nebraska beat. Put in this projection, which seems a little bit early, but this would be a huge get for the Huskers. I've said that Tory Pittman is a must land in the 2027 class. So just what's your reaction to Greg Smith putting his prediction in for Nebraska to land Tory Pittman?
Greg Smith is usually pretty good with his predictions. He's pretty reliable, so I trust this prediction, and it's a good sign for Nebraska. Obviously, 2027 is still a little bit of time away, but the fact that Nebraska is, beating out these programs for, at least, predictions and, hypothetically being able to keep this kid home would be huge. I'm not sure. Has Nebraska ever landed 2 5-stars in a recruiting class? I don't believe so. And I'm fully confident that Trey is going to get his 5th star. And by the way, he's a 4-star right now. But this would just Trey Taylor, Tory Pittman, sign me up. I mean, you've heard me talk about all through the past couple of shows. Don't worry about the 2026 class, because 2027 is going to be big. You get Taylor and Pittman in the same class. I mean, how much bigger can you get?
And Pittman, a dynamic athlete. He was 4th in the long jump at the 2024 USA Track and Field National Junior Olympics. He had 23 feet 4.5 in the long jump. And he also, runs well on the 100 and the 200. Last year with Omaha Central, played at safety and wide receiver, 54 tackles, 3 interceptions on defense, 26 catches, 458 yards, 17 yards per reception, 5 touchdowns on offense, and then also had 34 tackles and 2 interceptions as a freshman. So last year he was just a sophomore. So 3 interceptions, 5 touchdowns on defense. He'd be a junior this season. And he has had a lot of teams been offering him lately. It's been kind of interesting, and he hasn't posted as many, I guess. I just haven't seen it, but Colorado's offered him within the last month. Michigan, Notre Dame, Oregon, Florida State, Kansas, LSU, Miami. So I mean, it's basically like a who's who of big time teams trying to come into Nebraska and recruit this kid. The Huskers were the first offer. USC, Wisconsin, Tennessee were some of the other teams that followed, but they've put themselves in a great position here. And I think this kind of goes back to What you've been talking about, what we've been talking about, this 2027 class is set up to be a really good one. Matt Rule even mentioned this at Big Ten Media Days in one of his interviews. And I thought it was interesting. He talked about the recruiting, but he said, our 2026 class is going to be great, but our 2027 and 2028 classes essentially can be the true difference makers. And the only thing we really have to do is back it up on the field. That's not his exact quote. That's me paraphrasing, but we've said that many times before. If they can put a solid product on the field together this season and get some wins, get some of these other players on campus, then this 2027 class with Trey Taylor and maybe with Tory Pittman leading the way could be a game changer for Matt Rule and company.
Absolutely, and it kind of reminds me of the 2023 class a little bit in the way with the way they were able to bring in, Carter Nelson and Dylan Raiola. And so, you look at this 2027 class and Tory Pittman, Trey Taylor, then Taylor's been active in trying to get some receivers to come in this class. So, I mean, this class could be, like you said, an absolute game changer. And I know Pittman, obviously plays both sides of the football. Would you project him as a safety? Because that's where I would put him. Because I was watching his offensive highlights, and he's a damn good receiver too. So,
yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. It seems like he probably would be more of a defensive back right now, but but who knows? I mean, maybe he can play both ways. Maybe he wants to be a receiver. I mean, a couple years from now, it could be a little clearer, but regardless of whatever position he wants to play, just get him in the program and you can figure it out after the fact.
Yeah, right. Just give him free reign and just play him wherever he wants, and just put him on the field. And that kind of mindset is what we're seeing right now with Isaiah Mosey over at running back. Just put your best athletes on the field and let them go to work. So, I mean, Tory Pittman, Trey Taylor, sign me up immediately. Yes, please. I'm 100% all for it.
Yeah, so Tory Pittman would be a massive get if the Huskers were able to reel him in the 2027 class. And if you talk about if you start off with Trey Taylor and Tory Pittman, man, that's a heck of a way to recruit. And I know it's not even that long ago that we've had different people, fans, commenters on our pages being like, oh, Nebraska can't sign a top 10 class or they can't compete for these elite recruits. Well, that's really not true, and I think you're going to see that. Yeah, changing if anything. So here are some other 2027 targets that we wanted to kind of get to, setting up the recruiting board for Nebraska. Now, this is just 8 or 9 guys. This isn't everybody on the list, but these are some guys that have visited, have been on campus, and are expected to probably take another visit, either through different reporting or interviews. So kind of starting at the top, you talked about wide receiver, tight ends, Ahmad Houston was a teammate of Trey Taylor's at the 7-on-7 event they had in Lincoln.
They connect really well.
Yeah, he's 5-star, ranked 18th overall out of Louisiana. Obviously, there's going to be some work there to try to land his commitment, but he's the guy that you can expect to come for another visit. Another guy that also was in that 7-on-7 kind of weekend for that huddle event, Mark Matthews, the offensive tackle. Trey Taylor kind of has a strong relationship there, so he's another guy to keep an eye on. Notre Dame, Michigan, all those schools have been there. Oregon is another one. But he has talked about taking another visit. So it's not like Nebraska is necessarily in the lead, but he's going to be. But if he takes another visit this fall, I think that would be, that'd be 2 visits within a few months of his, and he's just a junior. So keep that in mind. Noah Roberts out of Chandler, Arizona. I had a little typo there. Sorry, I should have an L there. It should be Chandler. But anyway, 48th overall, a dynamic running back. Isaiah Rogers from Springfield, Massachusetts, kind of your stomping grounds, Danny. 145th overall. And then a few more offensive linemen. Albert Simeon, 4-star out of Lake Charles, Louisiana, 44th overall. Kennedy Brown, 5-star from Houston, Texas, number 1 overall. These are all guys that have been on campus and they're expected to be on campus again. So, I mean, you've got 4 or 5 top 100 guys there. Anthony Cartwright, and then also Matt Erickson, a 6'8" tackle from Omaha, isn't ranked yet, but I'm sure he'll be ranked at least as a 3-star. Kylan Haney, another one not ranked in the composite rankings, but I think will definitely be getting that 3-star designation. Those guys have visited multiple times and are both talking about coming back for games. So if you look at who the top in-state targets are, you got Tory Pittman, Matt Erickson, Kylan Haney, I think are right there, and then you've got a really nice group of out-of-state prospects who are truly elite. And so I really like this kind of how this board is setting up for Nebraska and where they sit with some of these top recruits.
And I love how there's three running backs on this board because I feel like sometimes, in the past couple of years, they've kind of shorted themselves in terms of running back recruiting to where they've had to, try to get a running back, and they didn't really set themselves up for backup plans. But all three running backs on this board are extremely talented. Roberts, obviously, Rogers. I know Massachusetts doesn't necessarily get a ton of love in high school recruiting, but he's a dynamic player. And then Kylon Haney. So I love how this board is shaping out at the running back position. And if we get any of those running backs, I'd be extremely happy. They're all talented. They're all really solid playmakers. And I'm really interested to see where this board goes and how much progress, in particular, they can make with Haney being the in-state recruit and the fact that he likes Nebraska.
Yeah, he really does like Nebraska, and sounds like he's one that's definitely going to be taking, another visit. And right now you've got those three guys, Haney, Erickson, and Tory Pittman are Nebraska's only in-state offers at this point. So that'll be kind of something to track. I know I expect more, in-state commitments than we got in this 2026 class. They tried for a couple, with Darian Jones. That one didn't work out. But so we'll see if any other players, kind of come aboard. You look at it's crazy though. I'm just looking at offers that Nebraska's made in the 2027 class, and I mean it's a big. They've probably offered hundreds of players already. So you can see the board kind of dwindling a little bit, and that's kind of what needs to happen over. You want to get these guys. Ideally, you can get them on campus, before their junior season. Get them for a game during their junior season, as Nebraska's trying to do with these guys. Then you get that spring visit, and then you get the official visit. So 3-4 visits, and then you have a chance to lock down that commitment. So I like the way that Nebraska, is setting this up, especially with these guys from Louisiana, Texas, Massachusetts. You got to get them on campus a couple of times, and the more you get them to Lincoln, Nebraska, especially for a game setting, I think the better chance you have of landing them.
They're shooting for the stars with this class, and like you said before, it's kind of something we all sort of predicted. But this class, you just look at this board, and I know we said it, but you look at these names, and this class could be a game changer. And I'm very interested to see what this class looks like. And I think it goes back to landing Trey Taylor so early, and the fact that Taylor wants to be a part of this program. He's been kind of an ambassador for this program, and now we're starting to see some positive momentum from that. I mean, I know you had a question, and rightfully so. How much would Trey Taylor's commitment impact this recruiting class, if any? I think it's impacting it quite a bit, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, and I think he will make a big impact, in this 2027 class. And looking at 2026, I think we'll see how it works out. If some other guys, if Nebraska is able to flip anybody, during this kind of during the fall, we'll see. I don't think that they're necessarily done. I don't think we're going to see a lot more commitments. I don't think we'll see a ton more, but I do think that they'll find a way to flip one of those edge players. I do think that there's a strong chance that Tadarius Hughes gets in the class. And, at this point, as long as you can hang on to Danny Odom and, just make sure that you slide Claude Mpuma, which there hasn't been any rumors about him getting targeted by anyone else. Danny Odom, on the other hand, getting targeted by Michigan, Ohio State, a bunch of others. So keep an eye on that recruitment. But yeah, so I think the 2026 class will be just fine. And then this class is where Nebraska can really start to put itself, I think, among the elite programs with the way that it's recruiting. But that is going to require, an 8 or 9 win season this year. It can't be you can't continue to have 6-6 seasons. I mean, Matt Rule has sold a lot on hope and optimism, but at some point you need to have guys that are going to the NFL. You need to be in that playoff conversation. You need to be ranked. And I think, Nebraska hopefully can take all those steps this season.
I feel like they can do it this season. I really do. Like you said, hope and optimism only goes so far, but I truly believe that they have the pieces on both sides of the football to get it done.
All right, let's a great shift the episode, mostly focusing on recruiting, but we do want to get to some nuggets, some early camp intel, camp reactions. So we did have an open practice on Monday, open to the media, which is one thing that Nebraska fans should be fortunate of, because not a lot of there's some programs that get 0 open media practices. They never get that happen. So it is nice that we get to see Dylan Raiola and some of these guys actually on the field. I know it's only a limited part of practice, so we kind of have to, keep our judgments at bay, not get too crazy to overreact. But one of the things that I did that definitely stood out to me, and I guess we'll have to talk about the potential, I guess, injury to Mac Markaway that's kind of been circulating. But the tight end room, holy cow, that was one thing that stood out to me on Monday, with Carter Nelson looking like an absolute beast. Luke Lindenmeyer, Heinrich Harburg was looking natural catching passes. Mac Markaway looks spectacular, but there's been some rumors that he suffered another season-ending injury. That's just rumors. I haven't seen it reported by any of the big local media guys, so take that with a grain of salt. But I think that there's definitely got to be some smoke there for it to be kind of leaching out at this point. So hopefully there isn't a serious injury to Mac Markaway, but even so, I think the tight end room is looking a lot better than people thought.
Yeah, it's looking a lot better than I thought, honestly, and I think it hinges on what Carter Nelson can do if he can stay healthy. And he looks great during camp. Like, physically, he looks incredible. If he can stay healthy, he will be an absolute force at the tight end position. And Luke Lindenmeyer was a key player down the stretch last season, and he's been looking good during practice. And Heinrich Harburg, the versatility that he can provide. I mean, this tight end room is looking a lot better than I thought, and I'm hoping that there is no injury to Markaway, because he looked really good on Monday. He was running fast, running good routes, and I think this was circulating too, and I don't know if this is true or not, because it sounded crazy to me, but Matt Rule said that he clocked Markaway at 21 miles per hour.
Yeah, I did see that. I mean, yeah, that could very well be the case. I mean, there's been other tight ends that have been, in that range. And I mean, he obviously started and played as a freshman at LSU, so he's definitely got some ability. So yeah, that'll be disappointing for the kid more than anything to come back. And it seemed like he was really excited about this opportunity to play football again after sitting. He enrolled in Nebraska on his own, got on the team, spent the whole year rehabbing. And so, that'll be almost like a Thomas Fidone type situation.
You remember how hard Thomas Fidone fought to came back and play, and he was understandably really nervous about coming back to play, and he still battled it out. And it was a long journey for him. So I'm hoping that's not the case for Markaway, but yeah, even still, on a more positive note, I do feel more comfortable about this tight end room than initially expected.
Yeah, I mean, it's just with Carter Nelson looking the way that he's looking and healthy, I mean, that just adds a whole nother dynamic to the room. So hopefully he can stay healthy and be a role player. Like Matt Rule said the other day, like he needs to be ready for that opening game against Cincinnati. And I don't know. Sometimes Matt Rule says things and they don't come to fruition, but I feel like that has a chance to come to fruition a little bit. So
absolutely. Yep.
One thing I wanted to touch on with the early kind of fall camp fallout things that have been happening. So we did have, not necessarily an update, but just kind of an interesting way to start camp. Everybody's sort of assumed that Elijah Pritchett will take over and be the starting left tackle this season. But when they opened camp, it was Gunnar Gatula who was getting the reps on the left side. Tyler Knack started on the right side, which Matt Rule said was going to happen. Do you read anything into this? Do you think, this is just kind of the way they're starting camp, or do you think that there is a chance that maybe somebody else besides Pritchett will start at left tackle for Nebraska this year?
I mean, we've talked about Gatula a ton and how he impressed last season, and he got a chance at some real playing time and real experience. I wouldn't say anything definitively as a result of this, but Pritchett as a second team left tackle tells me that they're really high on Gatula. And I know when he initially committed to the program, a lot of people pointed to the fact that he struggled at times at Alabama. So I'm wondering if those struggles are kind of rearing their head again. Either way, I don't think it's a bad thing. Having Pritchett as a depth piece on the second team is certainly a luxury, and it just means that Gatula is maybe more ready for this season than we thought he was.
Yeah, and it could be, or it could just be a simple thing as he was a starter last year, so they're going to put him out there first until they. So we really don't know. And that was just the first part of practice, and this is from Mike Severe. So we didn't. It's not like we sat there and watched the whole thing. I'm sure they probably switched back and forth. But it
Yeah.
does. I mean, Matt Rule did say at Big Ten Media Days that Elijah Pritchett does have work to do to lock down the position. So this might just be, maybe a motivational tool for him too. Like, hey, we're not going to give you the job, and if you need to make sure that you go through and win it. I still have a hard time seeing him not being one of the two starting tackles this season. I mean, maybe if he's really not ready on the left side because he played more, I believe, on the right side at Alabama. So, I mean, maybe he starts over there, but and he is playing a little bit of a different position over at left tackle. But I still think it will be him. I don't know about the right side position. I'm not sure about Tyler Knack. I still keep hearing a ton of things about Teddy Prohashka. So we'll see how the next few weeks kind of pan out. Because when we were talking about offensive line play, there's only so much you can do right and short. Like you got to get down, you got to get the pads on, you got to get the sweat going, you got to get good on good, live on live, and then see how things really pan out. And but yeah, when the thing about Gatula is he may not look as good of an athlete as Elijah Pritchett, right? Like when you're out there against nobody, he's not going to look, his feet probably don't look as good, and he's not as fluid of an athlete. But sometimes when it comes to offensive linemen, some people just know how to get in the way of somebody else. You know what I mean? It's kind of like running back. When somebody's chasing you, they may not have 4.4 speed when nobody's chasing them, but some guys when they've got that football in their hands and people are trying to tackle them, all of a sudden they got 4.4 speed. And so some people, when they line up, they have that physicality, and they're like, this guy ain't getting past me. And so I think that Gunnar Gatula definitely has some of that. And yeah, so maybe he can make some noise at left tackle, or he could still be the right tackle too. I mean, I think that he's getting kind of overlooked in that competition with Tyler Knack and even Prohashka. He's always been the guy that I thought would start on the right side, since he did start quite a few games last year. So yeah, we'll see how this kind of develops going forward. I am going to be watching it, but I still think Pritchett will end up being the left tackle, and maybe Gatula will end up on the right side.
And there was a time when we couldn't even have the luxury of having these problems of who's going to start. We had to throw somebody out there and hope they worked. Now we have that problem, so this is a good luxury to have.
And it shows, I mean, how deep that this room is. We had the offensive tackle, and I'm totally blanking on his name right now, but he was the former tight end, and he went to like Oklahoma State in the transfer portal. Just this
Grant Segrin?
Yes, Grant Segrin. So I mean, that's a guy that this room was kind of so loaded that even though he still had a roster spot, he decided to go somewhere else to try to get a chance to play. Because man, it's you've got Juju Marks coming in, the 4-star tackle, and then and Puma in the 2026 class. So if you look
Ainsworth and Waterman too.
Yep. So they've done a nice job there, and I think they've given themselves some nice pieces that they can develop for the future that also have a chance to play guard. It's like, okay, with Hayden Ainsworth, either he's going to be, he can find a way to play tackle, or he can just bump him inside and play guard. So, I like shooting your shot on offensive tackles, because almost every single one of them can become a guard. And it's like when you pass rush or when you pass block against edge players, when you sometimes have to move inside, that can make it a little bit easier because you don't have to be stuck out in space. So I think I like the pieces that they've added, even Leon Noyle in this class as well. So Donovan Raiola's got some really good pieces, I think, to work with on this offensive line. And we finally, like you said, are seeing some of that depth. Gibson Pyle, Grant Bricks, Preston Tamua, some of these guys. Jason Match, I can't pronounce his last name, but you know who I'm talking
Majowski?
about. Yes, Majowski.
I'm not pronouncing his last name right either, probably. So
close enough, yeah. But that's the affliction. That's the affliction of this podcast. Someday we will eventually get somebody's names, but when you're more of a print journalist, you just have to spell people's names right. So
I was always told I have a face for radio, so that's why I'm a print journalist.
So we're trying to get over that handicap. Someday we'll get there. So thanks for bearing with us, you guys. I know that's frustrating at times, but let's see other early camp returns. I mean, Jeremiah Jones obviously looking like just an absolute monster. My goodness. 6'4", 220 pounds. He makes Quinn Clark look small, and he's a massive dude. So I don't know. This receiver room has me excited. There's not a ton to glean from the first day, but it's just good to see the team working. I think everybody that followed the team it's like they passed the eye test. Now, what does that mean
Yeah.
in terms of the results on the season? I don't know, but I definitely think this is Matt Rule's most talented and complete team.
I saw a Ja'Cory Barney touchdown catch from Dylan Raiola at practice, and maybe that's a sign of things to come. We had our predictions on Monday, and we said that he was going to make an all Big Ten team. And hey, I'll take a Dylan Raiola Ja'Cory Barney connection every Saturday or Thursday or Friday or Tuesday. If you're in Nebraska, you play every damn day of the week. But hey, if that's a sign of things to come, sign me up. You talk about a guy that looks big. Ja'Cory Barney really got after it in the weight room this offseason, and like you've mentioned before, shout out to the strength and conditioning staff. He looks like a monster in a great way. He's much more, he has a lot more muscle on him, and he's not the same small freshman he was last season.
Yeah, he's not 165 pounds anymore,
No,
160 pounds anymore. And
no,
but that's kind of a common theme. I mean, Dylan Raiola looks much better than he did. Emmett Johnson looks
yep,
absolutely ripped. I mean, so
yep,
you look at all these guys, that's when you talk about, development, that's what elite development looks like. You can see it. You can see it on the field. And
yep.
that's this Nebraska team. You can see it with these guys. They look like NFL players. And that's something that I don't know if we were really saying that 4 or 5 years ago. And I
No.
know I bring up Michigan a lot, but the reason is because I truly see that blueprint that Jim Harbaugh had at Michigan. I truly see that. I truly see Matt Rule laying the groundwork for that here at Nebraska. And you start like that was one thing about they had Michigan had a great strength program, and it was like when you went there, this was scouts and stuff saying that, but they're like, it's like watching an NFL team practice. They look like NFL players, and I feel like more and more when you step into Nebraska's practice, facility to watch them practice, it's more and more starting to look like that, like an NFL team. Like this is a roster filled with dudes who are just waiting to get to the next level of football.
And even, we just mentioned Carter Nelson. I mean, he looks great this offseason too. So you can see the strength and conditioning program really starting to pay off. I mean, before, I remember us talking about endurance and just being able to make it through the fourth quarter. Now we're talking about well-built athletes and, significant gains over the course of an offseason instead of just these, let's hope they make it to the fourth, So I think that's a testament to what Matt Rule and the staff is building, and how much he pushed for, the players only cafeteria, how much he pushed for, the training tables. And he's invested a lot in Nebraska, not just as a coach on the field, but also vouching for better facilities. And I think that's a credit to him and to Troy Dannon.
Yeah, I mean, he knows what it takes to win. I mean, he's seen, the things that they have in the NFL. He's been, part of programs that have won conference championships, that have, played in big games. And he's also, seen what it takes, or, been on the other side of it, where he's lost to a lot of those major programs, Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game. So he knows what he has to beat. He knows what is out there. Like he's not ignorant about what the LSUs and Georgias and Floridas and all these programs have. But Nebraska, I think Nebraska does have a lot of those same things. They need to start winning on the field, and once they do that, everything will change for this program. And I think everything is teed up. Just got to go do it now. So, yeah, in terms of week one reactions or the first couple days of practice, I don't think I have anything else there. But just stay healthy, and everything kind of seems to be going to plan right now.
I'm just watching the Pritchett-Gatula battle. I think that's something to definitely watch. And yeah, like you said, I hope everybody stays healthy, because camp is when the injuries can pile up sometimes, and then all the depth you once had suddenly doesn't seem like a ton anymore. So
Yeah.
Hopefully, these guys can get healthy. I think we'll do a show on Saturday before the fan day. There's going to be a fan day like there was last year, and I believe fans will get to see what this team looks like. So I'm jealous. I wish I could be out there for that. But yeah, no, I'm really excited to see kind of what we see from fan day. I know it's more of a glorified scrimmage, but it'll be good to see the boys out there on the field.
Yeah, that will be fun. I'm glad Nebraska is going to be doing that. So yeah, we'll have our live chat, Coffee with Husker Big Red on Saturday. So you can come join us then. We'll look back at this first week, look ahead to Fan Day, and talk about just Nebraska football in general. We'll also have something posted on Friday, another video, probably looking back at this first full week of camp. So if you guys haven't already, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn your notifications on so you don't miss any of our content. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.